Y'all, I think I have discovered why cryptocurrency was created. And baby, does it get deep. Stay tuned. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Urban FinTech at the G Spot Studios channel, where we try to make finance and technology sexy. I'm your girl, G. So the currency arena is ever evolving as nations compete for economic supremacy and for stability. Now, one of the things we often hear about is the top 10 strongest currencies that serve as a testament to the economic powerhouses that shape them. However, honey, countries with higher value currencies aren't always the ones we hear about. Stats and info tend to lean toward countries with the most wealth, which just means these are the areas that have the most private wealth held by individuals. Because believe it or not, the top 5 countries with the highest currencies are not the United States. It is not China. It is not France, nor is it the UK. We're going to talk about what those countries are, how it all ties into why I believe cryptocurrency was created. We're even going to take a look at a little Simpsons Coin episode because there's something about this petro and petrodollar, honey. Let's talk about it. And yes, it gets a bit messy, so stay tuned. So the United States dollar comes in at number 10. The currency of the United States of America is the US dollar, or USD. It is the most widely traded currency and holds the position as the primary reserve currency despite its popularity and ranks among the 10th world's strongest currency. Number 9, the euro. The euro is the official currency of the Eurozone, comprising 19 member states of the European Union. It is the second largest reserve currency and the second most traded currency worldwide. The euro stands as one of the strongest currencies, holding the 9th position. Number 8, the Swiss franc. The Swiss franc, or the CHF, serves as the currency for Switzerland and for Liechtenstein. Known for the stability of its economy, Switzerland is among the world's wealthiest countries. Number 7, the Cayman Islands dollar, or the KYD. The official currency of the Cayman Islands is the Cayman Islands dollar. Although it ranks 7th among the strongest currencies, its value is the 5th highest globally. Initially using the Jamaican dollar, the Cayman Islands adopted their own currency in 1972. Number 6, the Gibraltar pound, or GIP, GIP. The Gibraltar pound is the currency of Gibraltar, which is pegged at par value to the British pound sterling, or the GBP. As a British overseas territory, Gibraltar depends on sectors like tourism and e-gaming. The GIP holds the 6th position among the strongest currencies in the world. Number 5, the British pound. Great Britain uses the British pound, which is also pretty broadly used in other countries and territories. As the world's 5th strongest currency, it holds a significant place in global finance. London's status as a financial hub and Britain's extensive trade activities contribute to the strength of the pound. Number 4, the Jordanian dinar, or the JOD. The Jordanian dinar has served as the currency of Jordan since it replaced the Palestinian pound in 1950. Jordan's fixed exchange rates and diversified economy have contributed to the high value of its currency, ranking it as the 4th largest globally. Number 3, the Omani Rial, or OMR. The Omani Rial is the currency of Oman and was introduced after the country ceased using the Indian rupee as its official currency. As a country with significant oil reserves, Oman's economy heavily relies on the oil sector. The Omani Rial, which is tied to the US dollar, is the 3rd most valuable currency in the world. Number 2, the Bahraini dinar. The Bahraini dinar, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, serves as the currency of Bahrain, an island nation in the Arabian Gulf heavily reliant on oil exports. The BHD is pegged to the US dollar and is exclusively used in Bahrain. With a strong expat community, including a significant number of Indians, the BHD holds the position as the second strongest currency globally. And number one is the Kuwaiti dinar. The highest value currency in the world is the Kuwaiti dinar, KWD. Since it was introduced in 1960, the Kuwaiti dinar has consistently ranked as the world's most valuable currency. Kuwait's economic stability, driven by its oil reserves and tax-free system, contributes to the highest demand for its currency. Among Indian expats, the INR to KYD exchange rate is particularly popular. So when we think about currency and the hierarchy that it represents, there are three major countries that fall within that spectrum. Kuwait being number one, Switzerland being number two, and the United States being number three. So the Kuwaiti dinar stands as the tallest, highest valued currency. Its commanding position reflects the economic strength of Kuwait. And Switzerland, the franc, exhibits remarkable resilience, maintaining its value even during turbulent times, which we happen to be experiencing currently around the world. And the US dollar is still ranked in the high markings because of its global dominance. So it's sort of been the way things are, and it's just sort of one of those things that comes with the territory. It plays a pivotal role in international trade and in finance. And so determinants of why currency is even valued really has two factors. The first is an economic growth system. So there's political stability, there's natural resources, there's a global demand significantly, which all impact the currency's worth. And as you know, in terms of maybe popularity, that's where the US dollar stands, but those other things are falling by the wayside. The political stability is very unshaky. Looking at our political climate these days, natural resources, we know that the US dollar is not backed by anything. Now, the second determinant of value for a currency is the diverse range of currencies showcased, which underscore the interconnectivity of the global economy. And so there has to be some kind of connection that exists. And as you saw with a few of those currencies that I mentioned previously, they are pegged to the US dollar. But how strong that is the question, because again, the US dollar has no value. And thus, this is why I believe cryptocurrency was created, because as it stands right now, the US dollar operates essentially off of a trust system. We are, as a people, globally, enlisting our personal trust into this fiat currency that has no backing, it has no natural resource, no commodity, no anything that backs it up. It's just something that we use, and because we use it, we give it value. So that is, in my opinion, a trust system. So if you look at the way cryptocurrency operates, it's by a consensus mechanism. Consensus meaning you give consent to these transactions, these messaging of financial steps that are taking place with using a cryptocurrency. And so to me, there's some similarities right there, but it gets even deeper, folks. So now let's discuss crypto contracts and consensus mechanisms. If you think about it, a crypto contract is not a form of a consensus mechanism. A crypto contract is a specific application that runs on a blockchain network, while a consensus mechanism is a general protocol that governs the network. So a crypto contract can use a consensus mechanism to ensure its validity and execution, but it's not the same thing as a consensus mechanism. Now, crypto contract basically is a set of rules you and someone else agree to follow when you want to exchange something on the internet. For example, you might agree to pay someone a certain amount of money if they send you digital artwork. A crypto contract makes sure that this exchange happens automatically and securely without anyone cheating or interfering. Now, a consensus mechanism is like a way of making sure that everyone who is using the same internet network agrees on what is happening and what is true. For example, you might have a group of friends who are watching the same movie online. A consensus mechanism Make sure that everyone sees the same scene at the same time and that no one can change or tamper with the movie. So, a crypto contract and a consensus mechanism are different things, but they can work together. A crypto contract can use a consensus mechanism to make sure that the rules are followed and the exchange is valid. For example, you might use a consensus mechanism to verify that the digital artwork you received, in that example we talked about earlier, is the same one that you agreed to buy and that the money you paid is the correct amount. So that's a really simple breakdown of what the differences are between those two. So here are my reasons to why I believe cryptocurrency was created. Number one, there are 180 currencies that are recognized by the United Nations worldwide. That is way too many currencies. If we can simplify that and streamline financial transactional processes, then it makes sense to try to operate with one or two essential currencies, or to have bridges with different currencies that all equate and lead to sort of a centralized currency that people can convert and use and go back and forth with seamlessly. Now, number two is a little more convoluted, so just bear with me. First up, we have the economy of Jordan. The economy of Jordan is classified as an emerging market economy. Jordan's GDP per capita rose by 351% in the 70s. It declined 30% in the 80s and rose again by 36% in the 90s after King Abdullah, its accession to the throne in 1999. It became more liberal economy and policies were introduced. And so its major export goods are textiles, fertilizers, phosphates, vegetables, and pharmaceuticals. Okay, pharmaceuticals. So that's number one. Now let's move on to the next country. This is the country of Bahrain, which is known for producing crude oil and natural gas. And we know in order to use those things, you have to use refined petroleum products. And so petroleum is there. This other country, Gibraltar, that we talked about. The country of Gibraltar, their economy consists largely of services. So they're a service sector kind of economy. They were part of the European Union until Brexit. British oversees their territory and they have a separate legal jurisdiction from the United Kingdom and a different tax system. So very interesting for Gibraltar. Now, you see their GDP listed there, and their import goods are fuel, manufactured goods, and foodstuff. So again, fuel, petroleum, right? Because we know that that is what's needed. That is a part of that petrodollar system. And now looking at Kuwait, Kuwait, officially the state of Kuwait, is a country of the Middle East. It is situated in the northern edge of Eastern Arabia at the top of the Persian Gulf, bordering Iraq to the north and Saudi Arabia to the south. Iraq and Kuwait also shares maritime borders with Iran. Kuwait has a coastal length of approximately 500 kilometers. And so you'll see their gross domestic product, 100 billion USD. 100, is that 100 billion? 106. My eyes are terrible. Okay, so what they largely produce is crude oil. They have crude oil reserves, honey. So they have on the side, just waiting for people, not just creating and manufacturing, but honey, they have reserves. They holding it down. They have some on the wait list for folks, and that's a huge deal. And they have about 102 billion barrels that are about 7% of the world's reserves. So almost 10% of the entire world is dependent on Kuwait. So I see why this is the number one economic valued currency in the world. So why do I say all of that? Why is all of this even important? Well, I'll tell you why. Right after we watch this Frank Coin episode and tie all of this together.
Be the invention that makes me rich. Oh, I will. Oh!
Frank Coin, the brainchild of longtime bachelor From science, Professor Frink is making a mint. Frink coin was just rated the world's most stable financial instrument, beating gold, the renminbi, and roadside corn.
Another billionaire? How did he make his money? Paraffin? Castor oil? Whalebone corsets for the woman who dares?
Actually, cryptocurrency. This new currency has made Professor Frink the richest man in Springfield.
Wait, are you saying I am no longer the richest man in town?
Now, y'all, when I tell you Mr. Burns be having me cracking up, like literally dying, like character is so rich, so realistic. You know, I know some human beings that that have that same sort of sentiment and characteristics. All right, so 3 things that he mentioned: whalebone corsets, paraffin, and castor oil. Now let's break all of those 3 things down, because this is what Mr. Burns talked about, and this is the Frank Coin cryptocurrency episode. Remember, they talked about the cryptocurrency is going to beat the gold, the renminbi, and roadside corn. So he was like, well, what do you mean? Are they using whalebone corsets, paraffin, castor oil? This is sort of what they claim as what created the previous rich people in the world. And so let's break down what these 3 things have in common. Paraffin. Now, paraffin wax is actually derived from petroleum, specifically from the refining process of crude oil. It's one of the byproducts of refining crude oil into gasoline. Paraffin wax is separated from the crude oil during the refining process and then purified for various uses, including candles, cosmetics, and waterproofing. All right, so we have petroleum right there. Castor oil. Now, while castor oil itself is not directly related to petroleum production, it's worth noting that petroleum-derived products are often used in the production and transportation of castor oil. So, for example, machinery used in the cultivation and extraction of castor oil may run on gasoline or diesel fuel, which are petroleum products. Additionally, transportation vehicles used to transport castor oil from production sites to processing facilities or distribution centers often run on petroleum-derived fuels. Now, the whalebone corset is a little different, because you know the Simpsons like to throw a little monkey wrench in it and not make everything so obvious. But one of the things we do know about just whalebones is that they were used for fashion, which we did attribute some of the other castor oil and paraffin can be used for beauty products and fashion. But as it relates to petroleum, when you take a whale's life, honey, when you unalive a whale, you have a whole body of a whale that can go to waste. And so what do? You use all kinds of the body parts for various things. And thus you get the blubber of the whale, which we know is very fatty and used for oil. And oil is equal to petroleum. So this petrodollar thing really derived from these countries that had a forefront in manufacturing and used it to their advantage. And so the United States, while going in debt and waging wars, getting more debt and in debt to other countries and taking the dollar away from the gold, not backed by anything, really, it really put a dagger in its own hip. And so we are struggling to come up with a way to maintain this economic supremacy that we have. And that's why I believe cryptocurrency was in fact created. So the fact that we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, this is the person who invented Bitcoin. The fact that the United States government is responsible for creating the hash that secures cryptography and cryptocurrency assets, the SHA-256 hash, is very peculiar. And the fact that a lot of military contracts and different governmental agencies are really attached to and even influencing a lot of blockchains is also peculiar. And so to me, it makes perfect sense that the United States created cryptocurrency as a means to maintain their wealth. It was created to battle the petrodollar. It was created because the BRICS nation is growing and countries are joining, and they have commodities and resource backed assets that they can use. And in order for us to be able to stay afloat and even compete, we have to change the entire system, disrupt the entire financial system, and create a new one. And there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think in the comments. I don't know if I think this is sexy or sad, but it is what it is. I guess it's a way to make money. So let me know. See you next time.